Hey all, so back with another war video, and we are again looking at the highlights from 3 different wars. There's plenty of Nico again, because I am the only one with her ranked in my battle group, other than the one we have on defense, so using her quite a bit. Now, this is the first ebb and flow intercept node. Nova is placed here because you basically have to get rid of his Furies before you can intercept him, and that can make things a little bit complicated. Nico's buff immunity is helpful here because it gets rid of it, but honestly, it's kind of just serving as a nullify. The only thing we really care about getting rid of is the Fury. Once that's gone, you can go for a straight up intercept, and that works great. You just kind of have to play around his power gain. She is a little bit better than most, though, because she can use this miss here for an easy intercept. The same idea as using counterpunch, anything along those lines. It works really, really well for these nodes. Then we get this big old Fury. We capitalize on those 3 poisons. And our special one does a little bit more. But her special one, even at its best, doesn't do that much damage. So we do have to close it out with some actual combos. We move on to Destroyer here in his usual spot on Mighty Charge. Number of answers to this. Luke is my personal favorite. Mighty Charge does shrug all of his stuff, even if he has 2 concussions up, because it is not subject to ability accuracy, it is just an immunity. But this fight still works really well. When you have the exhaustions up, you don't have to worry about Destroyer's power gain. If he somehow does get down to 2 exhaustions by purifying them like that, then you can even deal with the power gain by hitting him a bunch and just hoping it slows it down enough that you can actually bait things out. And then there's the best possible way this can go, which you're about to see, which is you back him up and you apply your debuffs, and then he throws specials. Because throwing specials is a way to get an opening without him dashing forward. And then we just keep hitting him, we keep being aggressive, and we want him to keep throwing those specials in the hopes that that means he won't dash, and we will keep our damage. Notice I am not going for removing protection here, because if I remove protection, I have to intercept him. For me to intercept him, he has to dash. And that is what we don't want. It is much better for Luke, in particular, to keep all of those debuffs up and get all of that extra, attack rating, that's the word. And to keep those concussions up so we don't have to worry about Mystic Dispersion or about Destroyer's Rupture retaliation damage or about the power gain. Like, literally none of it matters as long as we can keep the debuffs up, and that is more than worth fighting through all of this protection. It does take longer, though. You can see that we are coming up on 2 minutes, but that's just 2 minutes. That's not even close to a dangerously long fight. And I'm going to skip over the reason I brought Patriot, because I actually have another harder version of it later that I think is more interesting. And we are going to look at this Deathless Thanos fight on the Hazard Shift Poison Rupture node, because that is just not all that Nico was built for, but it is a very, very rich target for her. She counters pretty much everything that Thanos does as long as you're cycling between her specials, and then these are the 2 damage types that she can be immune to once per quest with her ward pre-fight. So we start with buff immunity so we don't have to worry about his energize, and so we can just hit a lot. That allows us to pretty easily get to the special one, refresh the buff immunity, apply the halt, and now we don't have to worry about his unstoppable, right? So we can just keep our tempo up and keep spamming this. You see there, he does go unstoppable, but we don't care about it. It just puts the panic on us, and that actually is a source of willpower, so it's keeping us healthy. Now, it is worth noting that panic does mean that we can't rely on Nico's miss. So I have to be a little bit careful with the special one and finding openings after it. Because this is stun immune, I could be going for heavy counters in other ways to get more Furies, and this would go a little bit faster. But as you can see, that's not really that important. We are cutting through this in pretty good time. We've got him down to his 3rd protection trigger in just a minute. And you see that when I do go for an ill-advised heavy, it's actually the first time that something goes wrong. But that's okay, we still get this down. He didn't hit us that hard because we were controlling his Furies with buff immunity, and his base attack isn't that high. Now, moving on to the next war, I brought my Apocalypse this time. You will see the main reason why later, but we are ramping him here. Attuma is okay Apocalypse target. It's really not ideal. You can't turn off his Purify, and so you can't stun. That's fine, you just don't stun. You don't really do anything to stop Thorns. Apocalypse does have a larger than average health pool, but not as large as people sometimes think, because, like, you crit resistance, which he has, does not protect you against Attuma's Thorns, right? Notice that I counted how many hits were in my special 2 before throwing that, so I didn't run into the falter. Attuma's Thorns are just red numbers. Apocalypse has no answer to those, and so his just moderately large health pool is only kind of a medium response to them. That's fine. We'll just take some damage. You can see it is piling up a little bit, and we just finish it off, and we heal. Not the end of the world. There we go, and we move on to the actual ramp for Apocalypse, this Domino here. Now, Domino is normally placed here because this fight puts bleeds on the defender, not the attacker. And Domino has a chance to purify bleeds and gain power, which is very annoying. But thankfully, it is actually a purify. And so Apocalypse, for the most part, turns it off. Now, you'll see that purified call out there, it did still trigger. We do have to still watch for it. And that is because Domino cheats. When her abilities fail, she just increases the chance for them to happen for a little while. And so because Apocalypse only reduces Purify chance by 100%, she still has that chance to do it after she's failed it a couple times. Is what it is. That's just what you expect from Domino. And we sidestep her, we continue to hit her. We haven't really ramped our evade counter here, that's fine. She was still lucky there when the stun applied through block, and I just wasn't paying enough attention to it. And so that did get us hit, because while she was lucky, it wasn't a Purify, that stun was just shorter, and I was not being careful enough. So I got hit, I took some bleed damage. The bleed wasn't long enough for me to go bleed immune, but that's actually a good thing, because I'm fighting Yelena later, and she punishes bleed immunity. Anyway, we've taken some damage, mostly from my own stupidity, and not as much from Domino's critical failure. We are healing back a little bit from willpower, but just because of the way Despair works, we're not getting all that much. And so, yeah, just another potion tax fight, but that is okay, because now my Apocalypse is fully ramped. And that is going to matter quite a bit in Section 2. I am going to go ahead and skip past this next fight. It is what I brought my Gallon for, but it's just Gallon versus Penny Parker. I actually awakened my Gallon for this to make sure he ramped really quick once Fisticuffs was down, but that's okay. You don't need to see that. If you know how that fight works, you've seen it a million times. Now this is what I brought Apocalypse for, because this is Yelena on Conflictor and Prowess Puncture, and that Conflictor is a problem. It's difficult to deal with her with extra power gain, or at best, annoying. But even though she stops so much, she doesn't stop Apocalypse's ability to stop Purify. She does protect her own abilities, to be clear. When she's in elimination mode, her own abilities cannot have their accuracy reduced, but Conflictor is not her ability, it's the node's, and so we don't have to worry about it at all. Apocalypse is just going to stop it. Now, I make a stupid mistake in here. For the most part, I play this pretty well. I'm going for heavy counters when I can get it, because that's the most reliable way to get these. I'm not really concerned about keeping these debuffs up. The endurance means the concussion is going to fall off faster than the degeneration, and it's not really safe for me to go for parry heavy. It's not really safe for me to do that either. And so I was at least smart enough to not go for parry heavy. I don't know why I tried to use the block stun. Like, that just was never going to go well. Whatever. If I had had a little bit more awareness, I just would have heavy countered that heavy she threw instead of throwing my striker. I was just going for getting an opening. That's okay. But at this point, we are actually trying to push her to 100 slowly but surely. We are not trying to get intercepted by her, but such is life. And now we are trying to build to 2 bars of power and just hold it, right? Because what I'm going for here is having my special 2 ready, and I am running power backs, when she goes into elimination mode. And notice I hit her block. I should have done it twice there, but there I get another one in before she throws this special, because now she's in elimination mode. I can't hit her with basics, but I can throw this special 2, and my attack is no longer capped. That means I get the full benefit of the mutant special boosts. I'm not running recoil, but I could have. My boosts were already safe, but I get the full attack that I wanted. The power backs give me a special 1, and I just finish it off. So that, other than me going for heavy where I shouldn't have, was played nearly perfectly. If you see Yelena there and your battle group has an Apocalypse, I would honestly even send a 6-star to that. I think it probably is worth it. Now, moving on to this Lady Deathstrike. This is in War 3, so we're back in Section 1. Over on Path 1, this is the personal space regen path fight. This is a little bit of a weird fight for Nico because I'm not using the buff immunity pre-fight. I have to actually earn it, and to apply it, I have to hit her, which means she needs to not go unstoppable, and that means I'm going to throw the special 1 first, and just not worry about her regen. There's an excellent chance that she is going to gain regens along the way. She's probably going to be at 100% health when I throw the special 2. All of that is completely okay. Every time she gains a regen, they are buffs, so we just gain power. We're not worried about where her health is. We're not even worried... we're not worried about where her health is. We are just doing maintenance here, and then we throw this special 2. Now, note that I did use the burn pre-fight, and that was to get these incinerates there. That's because she takes no damage from poisons. Now, you don't need this. If I really badly needed the burn pre-fight later on the map, I could have just done the normal thing. I could have applied poisons that did no damage. She would have willpower healed from them, and then I just would have spammed my special 1 and done burst damage that way. Because even if the poisons do no damage, they are still damaging effects on the opponent, and Nico's special 1 gets boosted by them. But I didn't need the burn pre-fight later, so I used it here, and it made that much easier. Gonna skip over this next fight because it is Apocalypse versus Domino again, and I have already subjected you to that. Unfortunately, she only evaded once that I can remember, and so I did not have much of an evade counter for this, which is a tough fight. I don't play this perfectly, but I'm going to say straight up, wouldn't recommend this. We did this because my battle group doesn't have enough Cyclopses. So that right there is why I took this, right? Because when Lumatrix throws their heavy and they gain that evade charge, Apocalypse can hit into it because he is stun immune while attacking. Right? That is the core theory of this fight. But Lumatrix does still evade, right? If you don't counter the evade, Lumatrix does still evade, and that means they gain their invisibility, which is a problem because Apocalypse has no way of countering miss. Now, if you have a special ready, then that's fine. You can throw the special and cancel it, but there's extra power gain here, and unfortunately things did not go according to plan for me. I'm running power backs again. My plan was to get to my own special 2. And I was going to do so much damage with the special 2 that I was then going to be able to throw a special 1 and have him much, much closer to dead than they are right now. So this is not ideal. I have gotten hit several times. The stun immunity is definitely causing me problems. My evade counter is ramping, but not quickly enough. I am gaining power. I am able to use my specials to cancel their invisibility, but again, not quite enough. And so this is just rough. I use the striker there. It's thankfully helping out, but I can't actually take advantage of the striker opening because Lumatrix was still invisible. That invisibility pausing when they attack is so brutal on defense. Unfortunately, that special 1 doesn't quite kill, so I just need to hit a few more times. Come on. Let me hit your block. All right. Good enough. Yeah, and I make it through that. Again, would not recommend, but with the Odin pre-fights, it was fine. I'll do it again if I have to. Anyway, this fight is a lot more exciting and much better. I took this earlier with a House of X pre-fight and hitting just into the stun, and that is very safe. But it's also a little tricky and kind of slow, and you do get backed up. And we actually sent this in another battle group, and that person did run into some trouble because they got a little stressed out playing in the corner, and it eventually led to a death. This time I am playing it a little bit differently, as you can tell. I'm intentionally hitting into her even when she is not stunned. I backed off there a little bit because I wanted her to throw that special too, and I wanted to take advantage of the fact that she throws specials more while the fumble is up to let her throw it into my block so that Power Snack didn't push her to a special 3, right? Because that is the one thing you cannot do in this fight is eat and survive a special 3. You see we got to the wall, but that's okay. I am re-parrying, knowing that my parry can fail because of the ensnare while it's up, and I am just trying to hit into her and push her back, even if I trigger an evade. I don't care if she hits into my block. I don't care if she throws the special 1 into my block. I take the shocks, I ignore the power stings, I have access to willpower here, I have a minimum regen rate of 44%, and so that means I can heal back what I take. I can reversal whenever I remember to. That's nice. But if I don't, that's also okay because I just keep hitting her and making space. So here I think I go for a reversal. Yeah, there we go. Note that the reversal usually works, even when the ensnare is up, but some of the other effects of it can fail. Like you can fail to get the Fury or the Precision. Just calling that out. Ensnare is powerful and dangerous. But that's okay. We're hitting through this. One other thing I want to call out is the way that power stings work. That was just a failed reparry. Means that you probably shouldn't special 3 on this node unless she has almost literally 0 power. And the reason for that is that if I have no power stings on me and I throw the special 3 and it pushes her over a bar, that will trigger a power sting, which will then deal damage to me. That sounds like nonsense, and I'm not saying it's not, but it is unfortunately kind of the way the code needs to work under the hood, because the alternative would be power sting dealing damage before the special 3 animation, and then you would just die to the power sting if it was on you. So this is kind of a... whatever. I'm not going to defend it, it's just kind of the way things need to be. But the main theory of this fight is that the same way that Patriot works against Photon, which is I don't care if you ramp and go unblockable, I'm going to block you anyway, he works here. Because it's very, very difficult to keep her from going unblockable. Patriot doesn't care. He has access to his Steadfast as long as she is unblockable. He has access to willpower, even though Despair is trying to stop it. And you just take it slow. Requires practicing for reparry, but that is the main challenge of the fight. And then you just hit her until she falls over. So yeah, I would recommend that. It does require patience. It does require skill with reparries. And it does require not freaking out when you get in the corner. Because, yeah, I'll admit it's stressful. But it's a good fight. And I would and probably will take it again. Now, moving on, we have Jean Grey here. Again on HS-Rupture. This is a little bit tougher of a fight for Nico than Deathless Thanos is. Jean has that force field. She has reverse controls. She doesn't have any naturally occurring buffs, so we're going to have fewer poisons. And she generally disrupts tempo, right? Especially if you have to be careful around her reverse controls, which I kind of do. And so after practicing this a little bit, I decided that I was going to take a bit of a different tactic, and I was going to go to Nico's Special 3. Because I probably could have just cycled Special 2s and been okay, but I wouldn't have kept things up as much, and I wouldn't have done as much damage. For those of you who don't know or remember, Nico's Special 3 increases the duration of all of her personal effects on the opponent by 50%. Which means that her buff immunity and halt last longer, which if you need her utility against any kind of disruption is huge, but it also means her poisons last longer. And so given that that is a lot of her damage, it kind of means she does 50% more damage for the rest of the fight. In a shorter fight, that's not worth it. But against somebody like Jean, who is just generally quite tanky thanks to the combination of inequity, exhaustion, and that force field, it is very, very worth it. And that's why I'm doing this here. So this fight ends up looking not that slow, but a fair amount of that is because I went for the special 3 first, and we are just getting so much more poison damage because of it. Even those passive poisons lasting longer is going to be nice. I did not mean to throw 2 mediums into her block there. C'est la vie. In my personal opinion, I want to call this out so that it doesn't catch somebody else. The reverse controls on the specials is not really the hard part of this fight, and you can watch for the reverse controls after you break her force field. Neither of those are really the risk to me. The risk, in my opinion, is not being ready for her heavy while your controls are reversed and getting hit by it. Because if you get hit by her heavy even once, you lose your miss, and those neuros are going to tick for a long time. You can survive it. The exhaustion willpower will help you, but it hurts. So I just want to call that out. That is a significant risk. That said, it is still a good fight. Nico has the tools for it. You just have to be a little bit more careful than normal. And that was my week 2. A bunch of fun fights. I'm really glad that I got Nico. Yeah, I did spend for it a bit. But I'm also glad that there is a guarantee on that kind of spending these days, because I have spent trying to get my own champions, because they matter to me quite a bit in the past, and had nothing to show for it, which is really not a fun feeling. And if I'm going to spend silly amounts of money, I would rather it be reliable. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I hope you guys enjoyed these. The Nico fights are a lot of fun for me. Really glad that Spider-Woman's placements have been giving Patriot a little bit extra mileage. That's been very cool for me as well. And then it was also nice to dust off Apocalypse, because I did take him to rank 4. I haven't been using him a ton, but he's still really good in War, and I'm glad I have him. I used him a lot in the old days, and there's some significant nostalgia attached to him for me. Again, hope y'all enjoyed these. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking, and until next time, thank you so much for watching, and take care.